Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Things are going great on my side, but I dare say I'm rather late to the party with this video. Not only am I late to watching Andor itself, but I've also been sitting on my review of this TV series for quite a while. I binge watched all 12 episodes sometime around the end of my Christmas break. Perhaps my hesitation to start watching the series has a lot to do with honestly some of my mixed impressions of previous Star Wars TV shows or films. Honestly, I find them to be very hit or miss. For example, most recently, I simply did not like Obi-Wan. Of course, there are some fantastic production qualities, as always in a Star Wars project. But when it comes to some of the creative choices taken to some of the character developments, there I have some serious issues. And as for The Mandalorian, honestly, I enjoyed it quite a lot overall. And indeed, there are a few excellent episodes, but I do find it to be rather inconsistent overall when it comes to the quality. You know what? I've given up on my hair. It's just doing n'importe quoi today. Anyways, what I meant to say is the cherry on top is that Grogu is just such a cutie pie. He's impossible not to love. And as for the major films themselves, it goes without saying that the original trilogy are just genre-defining masterpieces. Even all these years later, and who knows how many times I've viewed them, I still find something to learn from them. And as for the prequels, the macro narrative is quite important, honestly. But in terms of the language of cinema, it is completely and utterly broken. I will say that the latest trilogy fares better overall, at least from a cinematographic and mise-en-scène point of view. But then Episode 8 is by far the most divisive film of the entire franchise. And Episode 9 was a disastrous end to that era of Star Wars films. So yeah, very much a mixed bag. However, there is one Star Wars film that stands head and shoulders above the average. Rogue One is easily one of the greatest Star Wars projects of all time, and is honestly the only one that has any lasting power in my heart next to the original trilogy. Not only was it a great Star Wars project, but it's simply an excellent film. So it's extremely encouraging to see that Andor not only continues the storyline of one of the most interesting characters from Rogue One, but that we have a great creative lead at the head of this project, which in this case would be Tony Gilroy. He was responsible for co-writing Rogue One, so already from the get-go he fits perfectly on this project. Though personally, I know him best for writing and directing Michael Clayton, which also happens to be his directorial debut, an excellent legal thriller. The film earned 7 Oscar nominations, with Tony Gilroy getting a nomination for Best Original Screenplay. If you haven't seen this film, I highly recommend it. It's a fascinating film with some truly standout performances. I mean, after all, Tilda Swinton did win her Oscar for her acting in this film. Though perhaps he's best known for adapting the screenplays for the Bourne films. I'll be honest, my opinion on these films has altered quite a bit throughout the years. Don't get me wrong, I think they're outstanding action/spy thriller films. But I think that they are utter failures when it comes to actually adaptations from their source material, which in this case would be the books written by Robert Ludlum. And of course, no adaptation can be a one-for-one recreation. But imagine, for example, if we took the Harry Potter books and adapted them in a way where Voldemort never existed, Hermione and Ron never existed either, and Harry still somehow has a scar but goes to some other magical wizardry school and does wizarding stuff. You get the idea. It's just completely different stories. I digress. I'm kind of going off on a tangent. Bring things back on track. Even with that being said, seeing that Tony Gilroy is at the head of this project is very promising. And even from a distance, we could tell that, you know what, something feels right here. The force feels strong here. And as you can probably already tell by now, I really liked Andor, but I think for a lot of people, this might be too much of a slow burn. It has humble beginnings, and it takes a solid 3 episodes for things to start going. And even then, it's not the explosive, bombastic fireworks roller coaster ride that you could expect from other Star Wars or Disney projects. That's not to say that there aren't spectacular visual moments. It is indeed quite a sober and bleak cinematic experience for the most part. But there is this one climactic moment that is just simply visually jaw-dropping. I think that because these visual spectacles are such a rare occurrence in these series, when they do happen, they get such an exponential weight and power to them. My point is, the fights are few and far between, though they are nonetheless exquisitely executed. Instead, here we spend a lot more time dealing with intimate human, or perhaps rather alien, relationships in a world oppressed by the Empire. It is a decidedly grounded and grim TV series experience. And I do find it a shame that a lot of people are initially turned off by Andor. It is a slow burn, yes, but the trade-off is that you get some of the best written character drama in the entire Star Wars franchise. Give Andor some time and it will yield a truly meaningful narrative arc. And in contrast to other Star Wars shows, I find that the quality is consistent throughout the entire 12 episodes, which honestly reflects the writing talent behind the project. And beyond the writing itself, Andor has quite a lot of artistic merit, perhaps most notably in the cast itself, which honestly I feel Andor has one of the better ensemble casting of any Star Wars projects to date. Of course, Diego Luna is back as the anti-hero Cassian Andor, a role for which it feels like he was destined to play. And as exciting as it is to see his transition from a lone wolf nomad into a rebel, he has plenty of breathing room for a genuinely outstanding supporting cast to give some heartfelt performances. I love all the close friends and family we meet on Ferrix. I sensed a genuine bond and felt this deep and complex relationship that ties them all together. Of course, I won't go over everyone, but Adria Arjona shows great loyalty, determination, and warmth as Bix Colleen. And Fiona Shaw was a surprise standout as Marve, Cassian's adopted mother. For those who didn't connect the dots, she's the one who played Aunt Petunia in the Harry Potter films. I can't think of any other major roles she had since Harry Potter, if we could even call those major roles. But here she has a truly remarkable presence on screen. There's one scene in particular that's an absolute showstopper. And of course, we can't forget the endearing droid B2 EMO. It is rather heartbreaking to see him in such poor condition, but you can't help but love this guy nonetheless. Now, without going into too much detail, the small motley crew of rebels that we meet on the planet of Aldhani have quite the varied personalities. I won't go over all of them, but perhaps Alex Lawther's performance resonated the most in my mind. Like I said, it's been quite some time since I actually finished watching this TV series, but he left a strong impression with this innocent look in his eye, of a man afraid of the battle to come, yet brave enough to face it and to fight and hope for a better future to come. It's nice to see him get another high-profile role because I do find him to be quite a talented young actor. I remember most fondly as a young Alan Turing in The Imitation Game, and perhaps most recently as King Charles VI in The Last Duel. Though I'd say my favorite character in the entire series is hands down Stellan Skarsgård's Luther. What a delicious and mysterious role he has in this series. Every scene he's in, he's simply outstanding, and every new episode, he just gets more intriguing as it goes on. I feel like this man has the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he willingly bears that responsibility no matter the cost to his personal self. Which leads me perfectly to my next point. I'm fascinated by the deep look we get into what life was like during the iron-fisted reign of the Empire. It's rare that we get such a close and extended exposure into what life was like for the people in that society. We have a view from the military point of view, which seems like the most unstable and dangerous job ever. Some truly Game of Thrones vibes here. One slip up and you have a knife in your back of someone who's trying to climb the ladder above you and replace you. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and it's shocking to see, even if it is rather unsurprising given what we know about the Sith and the Empire at large. The other half we get exposed to is that of political life on Coruscant from the eyes of Mon Mothma. Yes, that Mon Mothma, if I'm not mistaken, who is wonderfully played by Genevieve O'Reilly. This is arguably one of the most interesting perspectives we see in the series. I can only imagine the suffocating weight of trying to do as much good as you can in a legal sense, and then in the shadows trying to support a rebellion on the side, all the while seeing your family being corrupted by this evil totalitarian regime. This view into life under the Empire's reign gives the opportunity to see quite a lot of aesthetic variety in the set productions, which are all immaculate. The locations are incredibly detailed and immersive, whether we're witnessing the poverty and the dirt on the industrial planet of Ferrix or the regal but cold beauty of Coruscant. These locations are so gaudy, I barely have the words to describe their beauty. But the sequence that I found by far the most compelling is that of the prison. It's been a while since we've seen anything truly innovating in the world of sci-fi, at least as far as I can tell from the last few years. The design of the prison is devilishly cunning, and the extremely minimalist nature of their setup makes it even more ingenious. I would not dare to call it beautiful because it is atrocious and appalling, but I can't help but marvel at its ingenuity from not only a cinematic and dramatic point of view, but also from a designer's eye. It is shockingly efficient. Give the devil his due, right? This whole sequence exposes us to some truly dire circumstances for the prisoners, and serves as yet another example of this maddening oppression from the Empire. Additionally, we are graced with a further expansion on an already wealthy cast in Andor. Here, Andy Serkis makes yet another appearance in a Star Wars project. I guess he can get away with another character since he's not a CGI Sith Lord monster as he was before. And finally, we have Olaf, an older prisoner who made quite the lasting impression. And I actually didn't connect the dots initially, but my girlfriend correctly pointed out that this was the guy from The Fifth Element, a rather irrelevant detail, but an interesting note nonetheless. Now, as much as I do love Andor, I do have a few points of criticism. I did mention that I love the perspective we get on the political front with Mon Mothma, but at times it does feel like it's a completely separate narrative going on from the main story in Andor. Honestly, it feels like an entire series could have been produced from a spy's point of view within the Empire. Sure, a lot of people might find that it's boring because there wouldn't be quite as much, if any, action whatsoever, but as far as I'm concerned, I think the soul is ripe for some potent drama and some truly heroic human endeavors in a much less action-oriented setting. But as it is now, it does feel like it interferes with the overall pacing of Andor, and that it barely scratches the surface of this personal and political turmoil that we're going through. Furthermore, on the military's front, I am not a fan of Cyril Karn's narrative arc, especially when the whole romantic thing gets introduced. In my mind, this is that infamous TV drama series ideas that get shoehorned into a series, and it's the kind of thing that just makes my eyes roll. You're welcome to disagree, but I felt that it was so artificial. And to add one more nail into the romantic coffin, I'm rather disappointed with one of the romantic relationships we get introduced to between two rebels. Perhaps this is a seed that would bloom if a second season should ever happen, but as it is, the love between the two feels rather paper thin. To be clear, I have nothing against seeing a lesbian couple on screen. Honestly, this feels like one of those moments where executives had to just check off a list of generic ideas that had to be introduced into the series without any real heart or soul integrated into those ideas. Come on, guys, we can do better than this. But even with those complaints, there's no denying in my mind that this is one of the best Star Wars stories told to date. It may be a slow burn, but I'll be damned if this isn't one of the most powerful, emotional, and cinematographically sensational Star Wars projects kicking around. The hype around this one is real. As I said, it has been some time since I watched it, and even now the impression it made on me still feels raw. Yeah, I find it truly inspiring, especially for someone like me who is working on a Star Wars project. So yeah, I love the show. I'm gonna give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. If you're looking for a great sci-fi show to watch, or you're late to the party for this one like I was, or for whatever reason you're hesitating, then here's a friendly reminder to stop hesitating and go check it out, because it truly is fantastic. Even he agrees. Alright, and that is all for today. My video turnout has been a bit slower lately, I've been keeping quite busy, and this one is probably going to come out much later than initially expected, but fear not, I got more content coming along the way very soon. And once again, I have not abandoned that best films of 2022 list. It is viciously delayed, but fear not, it is coming, as sure as you were born. Anyways, as always, wishing you and your family nothing but the best. Take care and talk to you very soon.